Today we're looking at the brand new wonder weapon in Reckoning, the Gorgofex. From its base form and its 2 upgrades, to its damage, to its variants and their special abilities, including whatever the special ability is for the C variant, and any sort of tips and tricks for you to use to make sure you're taking full advantage of the Gorgofex. Let's start things off simple with the base Gorgofex. Now the base version, as well as all of its variants, have quite a few different damage numbers. So unfortunately, there's not like a simple spreadsheet I could give to you, but I do have a graphic. We're expanding our horizons here on the channel. Obviously, with the base version of the Gorgofex, you can fire it like a normal gun, semi-automatic. Those shots are going to deal 4,000 damage, which is enough to one-shot zombies through round 23, which is actually pretty terrible. According to my stats, there are only 3 weapons with less damage per shot, and that would be the Ladra, FFAR, and XMG. Now, with the rate of fire, which I calculated to be about 122 rounds per minute, including double time with double tap, by the way, with that 4,000 damage, that leads our DPS to be 8,000. Yep. 8,133 damage per second, which makes sense. 120 rounds per minute is about 2 shots every second. If we've got 4,000 shots every second, that's 8,000 damage per second. It's pretty rough. Luckily, we can upgrade this in a different way, and there's a lot more to this wonder weapon, so don't let that negativity get you down. Going back to our chart, you can see underneath that 4,000 damage, there is a charged shot damage. Now, this charged shot damage is the impact damage that you deal to the zombies that you actually impact with the charged shot. This will deal 10,000 damage to zombies, and despite that being 2.5 times more damage than the single shot damage, you're still only going to one-shot zombies through round 29. Luckily, there is a special ability of the Gorgofex. Once you land a shot, there will be an area of effect that will deal that 10,000 damage to a group of zombies, which is good. But outside of that, there is a levitation effect that will deal 1,000 damage to zombies that are trapped in it, which is enough to one-shot zombies through round 15. Now, if it's after round 29 and that charge shot is no longer one-shotting, they will also be dealt the 1,000 damage from the levitation effect, which means the one-shot capability is actually round 30. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's pretty weak in its base form. This is not super great. And as a downside, at least as of now, you cannot pack-a-punch the base version. You need to upgrade it to not only give it a special effect, but also for the ability to simply pack-a-punch it. And before we move on, I do want to talk about the levitation effect because I think it's wonderful. I think that's one of the best different effects that we've gotten in zombies. It's reminiscent sort of Moon, of them floating, but it's different enough to be cool, but they only levitate for 5 seconds. So if you wanted to use this as like a utility, like, oh, you're gonna launch zombies up and then switch to your second gun and deal damage to them, yes, that works in theory. But first of all, there's not enough time for you to switch your gun and really make the most out of them floating in the air. But second of all, the range that it floats people up, according to my very limited testing, it looks like there's only a 5-meter diameter for zombies to be lifted up into this anti-gravity effect, which if you're playing on any sort of round is really not a lot of zombies. So that levitation effect becomes more flare than anything. Luckily, the variants of the Gorgofex do a great job at taking care of that. I know everyone says the Gorgofex sucks and it's one of the worst wonder weapons, but believe me, it's actually one of my favorites, and it's not as weak as you think it is. But of course, in order for it to not be weak, this base variant is actually pretty garbage, but once we upgrade it, that's when we start having some fun. So let's talk about everybody's favorite variant, the Gorgofex N. Blanchard was a real one. Even his life essence makes things amazing. With these variants, we are able to pack-a-punch them, which automatically gives them a lot more damage. And as you can see here with the Gorgofex N, the single shots are now dealing 26,000 damage per shot, allowing you to one-shot into a respectable round 40. Combine that with the still slow rate of fire, and that raises our DPS to about 52,000 DPS, which is honestly not too bad. That's killing 1 zombie per second if you land all of your shots. But talking about the charge shot is now going to deal 65,000 damage. That is more than enough to one-shot zombies at health cap being around 55 and 50,000 damage to zombies. Now there is still a levitation effect just like the base version, but that damage is only 6,500 damage. And remember, this is triple pack-a-punched, and that's only going to be one shot through round 26, but something tells me you're not going to be able to triple pack-a-punch this thing before round 26 unless you get really lucky with some side quests. But the magic with these variants comes with their special ability, and the Gorgofex N special ability is the acid pool that drops once you do a charged shot. This acid pool is about 5 meters in diameter and lasts for about 5 seconds, and according to my, again, just counting the damage numbers, appears to do about 1 tick of damage per second, and that tick of damage is about 13,000. If a zombie is within this acid pool for the full 5 seconds, that acid pool is going to deal 65,000 damage to that zombie, which is, again, capable of killing them at health cap. And what's cool about that acid pool is that when you shoot a charged shot and all of the zombies get lifted up into the air, they are directly over that acid pool and they can't go anywhere. So that means any zombies that you shoot with the charge shot and get sucked up into the air, that is a guaranteed kill for you, meaning the amount of kills per second you can get with the Gorgofex N just went up. And this is especially good against Doppelgast in Reckoning. If you manage to shoot them with a charge shot, you will deal 65,000 damage to them. Most of the time they're going to get stunned in the acid pool for the entire 5 seconds, meaning you're going to deal like 130,000 damage to those Doppelgast, which is about half of their health. So 2 good solid charge shots against the Doppelgast is going to take it out. That is pretty darn effective if you ask me. Granted, you have to have them wait in the acid pool, so it takes a lot of time. This variant is the go-to for high round strategies, as I'm sure you've seen across YouTube. The ability to stun enemies and deal damage over time as you're charging the next shot is amazing, especially paired with the map layout of the Reckoning, where you can oftentimes funnel zombies into one single lane. Yes, super sprinters often run past this, but the sheer amount of damage over time you get is hard to argue with. Now, I've run multiple tests, and I don't know if my game is glitched or if I'm missing something completely obvious, but it seems as though I don't always get this acid pool whenever I shoot the Gorgofex N. My suspicion is that I need to have a zombie within the radius or to float up and then fall down or something like that to spawn in this acid pool, but I haven't seen anyone else talk about it. But it does seem inconsistent, because if you just shoot a charge shot on the ground, then you won't get the acid pool, but then sometimes you will get the acid pool, but then you won't be able to see it due to a visual glitch. I feel like I'm missing something very important about this wonder weapon, and I apologize, but I just couldn't figure it out. What I did manage to figure out is the Gorgofex C variant. At least, I really hope so. Strangely enough, the Gorgofex C variant doesn't do any more damage with its single or charge shot. It's still going to do 26,000 damage for a single shot, which is a one shot through round 40 with the same 52,000 DPS that we calculated earlier. And the charge shot is once again going to deal 65,000 damage to any zombie that it hits, which is good enough to one shot at health cap. Now, a lot of people didn't know the special effect of this variant, because this variant is very similar to the base variant. You will shoot a charge shot, and then there will be about a 5-meter diameter of zombies that get floated up into the air. Once again, that floating ability, just like with the other Gorgofex, is going to deal 6,500 damage, which is again one-shotting through round 26. But you'll notice with the Gorgofex C, once the zombies are done floating in the air after that 5 seconds, they will explode. And if they're not wearing armor, the maximum damage that I've seen is 45,500. What's awesome about that is that even if a zombie only gets levitated, it's going to be dealt that 6,500 damage, which is not a lot, but then it will explode in the 45,000 damage. Combining those two totals is going to give you over 50,000 damage, which is a one-shot even at health cap, meaning that every single zombie that gets floated up into the air by that special anti-gravity ability is gonna die infinitely. But donuts, I hear you say. With the N variant, the zombies that got floated into the air also die in one shot every time. So what's the point of running this one? Well, the difference is that with the Gorgofex C, if you pay attention closely, when the zombies explode, they will be dealt damage themselves and die, obviously, but they will also become like small explosions in and of themselves, meaning that any zombie or enemy that's around them will also be dealt damage. I've slowed a couple clips down because you can see it somewhat clearly here. When the zombies in the air explode, they deal damage to zombies directly underneath them. Now, as a mechanic, I absolutely freaking love this. This is like the training Gorgofex. This is if you're training in a high, fast-paced area, you shoot it down, zombies pop up, zombies go underneath those zombies that are floating in the air, the zombies floating in the air explode, and then kill the zombies underneath it, so you get like 2 levels of insta-kills. Unfortunately, as you can probably tell through your own gameplay and the gameplay in the background, the range or radius of that explosion, that secondary explosion, is criminally small. The zombies have to be basically touching another zombie in order for this damage to take place. Additionally, the further away the zombies are from the floating zombies in the air that explode, the lower the damage they're going to deal, meaning that those secondary explosions are not guaranteed to be an insta-kill. In fact, in the best case scenario, you're going to be able to deal 45,500 damage, but that is going to stop insta-killing at round 52. Now that's very respectable, especially if you're training, but I would love to see a dramatic range increase to this explosion and possibly a slight damage increase as well, just so we can get a little bit more consistent damage out of this one. Though that being said, with the Gorgofex N variant, that didn't deal a whole lot of damage to zombies running through the acid pool either if they were fast enough. So hopefully you can see kind of the two different strategies with these variants. With the Gorgofex N, with that acid pool, you're doing damage to maybe more zombies running through it, but it's much less damage, only at 13,000 damage. But with the Gorgofex C, if you can train up zombies to be all within that area, you're dealing like 40,000, 30,000 damage. I really didn't see anything less than 30,000 damage damage to the zombies that were affected by those exploding zombies. The Gorgofex C is like the ultimate get out of my way weapon, whereas the N variant is more of like the camping weapon. Sure, I guess you could train the zombies around the acid pool, and that's definitely very viable, but that happens over time, and the Gorgofex C explosion is instantaneous. And like I said, if that explosion radius was increased for the Gorgofex C, I feel like people would really enjoy this variant, because I really enjoy this variant. I think people are sleeping on it. Having that much power and that much damage in this really tiny area is really fun to play with, especially with the Doppelgast, because like we said, a charge shot will stun the Doppelgast, dealing 65,000 damage, but then if you get a good amount of zombies within that radius that all explode on the Doppelgast, you can deal massive amount of damage to one singular target like a Doppelgast really quickly. Unfortunately, all of these variants don't seem to do that much to the Uberklauses. That being said, both variants dealing, 65,000 damage. If you manage to land a charged shot on the Uberklaus's shoulders, it does take care of them rather quickly. But in terms of practicality, it's a little bit more difficult. I would love to get like a huge horde of zombies around the Uberklaus and see what all of the explosions do with the Gorgofex C variant, but because the Klaus like knocks over zombies and you're running away a lot and the zombies are really spread out whenever he comes around, it's just hard to practically get a good test of that. But between you and me, I feel like these wonder weapons are better than most of the ray gun variants, and I think they're a little bit more fun than the jet gun. And like I said, I would love to see a range buff to the exploding zombies for the C variant. I think that would just be so much cooler. I think that would get a lot more people on board with it. But I guess the real test of a wonder weapon is how it does in high rounds. And lucky for you, I've taken the Gorgofex to round 100, but it was not as easy as I thought it was gonna be. Be sure to check out the entire journey right here, join the Discord, and stay beautiful.